From sources that I've been informed, her body's been moved around through the decomposition states till it finally decomposed down to bone, and they just disregarded the remains in that cut. I've been in that cut 6 times, and it's a public area. It's railroad property, but people go down there as long as a lot of the people are respectful to go down there. They don't trash the place. They just go down there and look at it. I don't think a body's going to stay in there for 10 years and not be noticed.
Where is Linda Price? Part 2 of 2.
Warning. The podcast you're about to listen to may contain graphic descriptions of violent assaults, murder, and adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
It's a mystery, obviously, but if you want to give those theories, whatever you're comfortable with. Of course, we won't name any names or anything like that, but I think the operating theories are good, because I was curious as to if you all could guess where in the community, or if there was a group in the community that would be more likely to have answers, where would that be? And because, again, we're talking about small town stuff, really small town stuff. What did you end up learning?
It was after her second oldest brother. He had just got out of prison. He had messaged me and wanted me to come and meet him. So I came and met with him in Perryville, and he explained to me what he had heard in his time in there and what he's heard on the outside. And the theory that he gave me was that she was with a guy, she was staying there with him in McKinney, and her and a woman had took X amount of money. When it came to collect the debt, the woman threw my mom under the bus to clear her name, and she inevitably met her fate to cover for the other woman.
Oh, wow. And that's McKinney, another very small town. Perryville's a tiny town next to here, too.
Mm-hmm.
How far is McKinney from Danville?
McKinney from Danville, I would say it's about a 15-minute drive.
Gotcha, yeah. Would we call that a mountain and a holler, do you think? Or?
I would call it like a valley, sort of.
Gotcha.
It's got different landscapes, but there's rolling hills, there's plains, things like that. Just your average Kentucky landscape.
Gotcha.
So she was in McKinney staying, and so supposedly money was taken. Another lady said that, Linda, your mother did that, and so that's someone supposedly did something to her because of the taking of the money.
That's correct. That's the strongest theory that's been going for the past 4 or 5 years, and many sources have backed that. Inside sources, informants I've spoke to, anybody that knew about the case or knew of the people that were involved. That's the one that keeps keeps coming up. Yep.
Now, those people, the lady and the person she was staying with, has anyone ever spoken to either of those people or validated that? Any law enforcement or anything?
As far as I'm concerned, no one in law enforcement has spoke to him. It's a very tight community down there. Everybody's got tight lips down there. You don't speak. If you're a snitch, you're going to go missing.
Wow.
Very, very tight community down there. Hear no evil, see no evil.
So that's what you all have been living with for the past however many years. That's the last known thing that happened to her.
And that's the biggest hurdle is, you get names, you have theories, but you also have to understand that law enforcement, they have regulations and they have restrictions. They have guidelines. They just can't go in guns blazing. Hey, we need to question you. There's procedures that they have to follow. So it's such a battle with, okay, we know these people are involved. We want them to talk, but on the other side, it's okay. We understand you guys just can't go in here and do what you want. And it's a battle on the other side too of these people aren't going to talk. That's the biggest obstacle is getting someone to talk. You can't strong someone into talking.
No.
Yeah, those that's got to be frustrating for a family.
Oh,
Is,
absolutely.
there's a lot of misinterpretations. We've kind of halfway joked before that that pesky thing called the Constitution and the amendments is that we're not China. We just can't pick people up and make them talk. That said, I guess that I agree that those people are clannish and they're tight-lipped and everything, but one of these days, one of them might just get in enough trouble that they don't want to take a ride for somebody else. I think that's what I always rolled the dice and crossed my fingers for, is that everybody's a bad actor until they're staring down real calendar time and being torn away from their family. So maybe that'll loosen those lips up one day too. So we've got McKinney. I guess if we were going to focus, then I'd say that the answers would be somewhere in McKinney or here in Danville or Perryville or Lancaster or Stanford, just the general area again too, right?
Had any of those theories that you heard back years ago at the jail, did they match what your
Yeah,
oldest
some of
son
'em.
told Chase?
Yeah. Because in the jail system, they have their own, their own talking.
Mhm.
Yeah, they've got their own.
I'm just hoping eventually someone will just somehow just call anonymously and just drop an area. I'll go pick it up myself.
Mhm.
No police involved.
Just
Just
to
want her
locate her.
remains home.
Mhm.
Have you heard any theories about where her remains might be that you would want to share? And again, if we go somewhere you're not comfortable with, don't. But general areas, I don't want to sick a bunch of people on an area looking.
Well, they have done a search at the cut.
The cut.
The cut.
A lot of
Wrong
people in the
word, sorry.
community know that as the cut. It's the old train tunnel in McKinney there off of 501.
Okay.
From sources that I've been informed, her body's been moved around through the decomposition states till it finally decomposed down to bone, and they just disregarded the remains in that cut. I've been in that cut 6 times, and it's a public area. It's railroad property, but people go down there as long as a lot of the people are respectful to go down there. They don't trash the place. They just go down there and look at it. I don't think a body's going to stay in there for 10 years and not be noticed.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too reasonable.
But a lot of the theories are surrounding she was in McKinney and didn't leave McKinney. I was given an anonymous tip a few weeks back that her body was supposedly dumped in the PC Park Lake, which is Pulaski County Park Lake, which I'm going to try to get some more credibility for that before I try to get a team out there to search. Because logically, you got to think as well, that river flows, or that park flows, flows into the Cumberland River. There's so many drafts in there. The water's constantly up and down.
Amen.
Yeah, and and I don't remember the case, the woman's name, but there was a case where her remains were washed 119 miles down the river. And I think it was a quote that either you said or one of the detectives says, the river always gives up.
True, it does. Yeah, it does. Those bodies of water, at some point, I think it was the Goldie Massey case probably,
Yeah.
where they still haven't located all over, but eventually it gives it up. We've just had, to date this, we've just had some really big flooding. I was mentioning that the Kentucky River's still up, and it'll do one or two things. It'll make it harder or easier when it starts cutting away at banks and things like that. We can always hope on that too, that things get uncovered in that process. What else have you done? And by the way, where you're talking about is if we were looking at who might want to move somebody there, pretty much a straight shot down Highway 27, right?
Yeah, it's off of 501. There's a small bridge, and there's 4 roads that break off from it, and you can take one of those roads called Tunnel Road, and you can go down there right along the railroad tracks, and then you just cross over those, and you walk through the tunnel. You can get a side-by-side ATV, an off-road vehicle through it. I've been in it 6 times. It's a really unique site. You walk in about I think it's about 3/4 of a mile long. You walk in about the first quarter, there's a cavern to your left or your right, and it's about 12 feet up, and that's where they used to store coal for the old steam engines.
Okay.
And you get down further to the end, there's a stream that runs through it, and there's a body of water that slowly declines or gets deeper, and you can't get into that. I've been up to it about mid chest high, and you can still keep walking. You can about swim in it, but they've where they've closed it down, they backfilled it, so there's a lot of rubble at the end of it.
Gotcha. Just to keep people from wandering and getting hurt and getting lost, I reckon, too.
So have you all ever hired, or Chase, are you doing all the kind of investigating yourself, or have you all hired someone to assist with looking in?
We've never hired anyone.
And I guess police have not given any theories about what they're thinking or what they've heard.
There's been a very stretched communication there with us and the detectives, but there's an understanding. There's more than one person out there that's missing. I understand they have a job, so there's been a not very strong communication with them. There has been a couple of searches conducted by KSP and the detectives. Detective Thornberry, or not Thornberry, Detective Mike Ward. He did a search on top of the tunnel with a dog. He said that he didn't find anything, but at the time that he went out there, they was doing some cleanup there. So KSP and the detectives, they done a couple of searches. The torch was passed down to me from Mary. I'm getting what I can from informants and seeing what's more credible to pursue and what I just don't need to bother with. I'm hoping to get another search down at the end of that tunnel, and get some more credibility to go down to PC Park Lake.
Do you think there's still people out there that would be willing to tell you or share what they know? Or do you just think it's beyond that? No one's going to tell if they do know?
I think that maybe in time, if there's a certain circumstance that comes along, maybe somebody's on their deathbed and like, hey, I'm about to go, I'll give you what I know. Or maybe somebody will just get tired of sitting on it. Like, you can only stand on hot coals for a long time, for a period of time before it's all right, I'm going to hop off this. And, so I think maybe in time, somebody will say something, but there's also the other side of, it's been 10 years. Surely something would have been said.
Yeah.
Never give up. Never give up. I mean, that's easier said from somebody who isn't in that shoe, but especially with today, with the modern technologies and the science that we have that we didn't have several years ago, I would not give up. And again, motivators change for people on a dime. Like you said, circumstances change and they do that. What do y'all think about, let's talk about missing people for a little bit. Do you ever get the impression that society just forgets about people like Linda or Michael? Do you get the feeling like you're just left alone in this at some point?
Yes, I do.
I didn't mean to cut you off there. Absolutely. There's a lot of days it's a struggle thinking that you're just tucked in the corner. You're put in that filed away box, but also understanding the other side trying to see it from the detective sides. I think the statistics was that 400,000 missing people cases are filed a year, and they got to pick through those, see which ones are actually missing, or if it's just some juvenile that's ran away from home because they're mad at mom and dad. They'll come back. So there's days it feels like nothing's being done and it's a struggle, but then I look and try to see it through the detective's eyes that they're not superheroes.
Yeah. It's tough triaging them because most people aren't really missing like Linda is. Does that make sense? So we have that 400,000, and it really is tough to pick which one that you're going to lean into. I think intuition comes into. I think communicating from the family is a big one. Just through experience, the more honest a family is. For example, when I'm pretty sure when you all talked about Linda, you talked about her life challenges, because that's a big deal. That tells where you might go. We call that victimology, and that might help us when we decide where to go with something like that. But I think it's one reason we like sitting down and talking with you all is that maybe to lessen the likelihood that somebody gets lost in numbers and statistics and just is more than an Amos number. All right. I mean, Linda's got an Amos number, but we need to make sure that her name is in front of all of that too. What would justice look like? I mean, you mentioned, I think, Mary Elizabeth, that locating her would be your biggest thing.
Just bring her home so I can bury her.
That's it. Yeah, to have something to work with.
Closure.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Chase? What's that look like?
I feel the same way for the majority of the part. You know, I have my own system. I call the 3R system. I'm not looking for revenge or retribution, just relief.
Okay.
You know, when we have our annual vigils between the family for my mother, it's a very, very unexplained feeling when you look at a headstone with a birth date, no death date, and knowing that she is not there.
Yeah. So you have a marker ready.
Yes.
What a horrible.
We have her a burial plot just in case. We have her a headstone. It has a picture. She has a birth date, but I did not put an exit date.
What cemetery is she in?
Lanham Town Cemetery outside.
In Casey County.
Lanham Town. Okay. Gotcha. What a horrible position to be in, to have a place to rest your family
Well,
member.
when my son and Chase started searching and we were finding some bones, I had to think, what if we do find her? I don't have a place to lay them. So we got that took care of.
Hmm.
And I've had her picture put on there just so even that's a place to go and talk to her.
You have to start somewhere, I guess. You have to start somewhere.
That way, if I leave this world, it's took care of.
There we go.
Which I think putting that stone there for me was a motivator in a way to finally get the stone finished and know that she is there.
There we go.
Mhm.
Bring her home. Bring her home. For the people that, you know, we know people know things. We can agree on that. Small town, like you said, tight-lipped, clannish. What would you say to those people? If you met one, what would you say to somebody that knew something that isn't coming forward? What would you ask them? What would your argument be with them? What would you say to somebody like that that's holding it inside?
I respect why you're doing what you do because of the world you live in, but don't make us be a part of that world and just give us what we want. I don't want you behind bars. You'll have to live with that for the rest of your life, and in the afterlife, you'll be judged for it.
It's very profound.
Mhm.
Very profound. I've never heard anybody put it that way, so that's very profound. And again, I think that the whole idea of having that marker to drive
Yes.
to get that fulfilled. How can people help with this in the community? What would be the avenues of communication? What would you ask the community to do?
Keep their ears out. If you know something, come forward. I mean, if I can get enough credibility to go and do searches, boots on the ground would be greatly appreciated. You know,
Gotcha.
if you want to come out for 15 minutes, if you want to stick around for 8 hours, you know, boots on the ground, more eyes, more coverage.
Okay, so if you get a good search area, then you would ask people to come out and give you a hand. I agree with that. That's good to cover more ground.
I did have a question that I wanted to ask. You all had mentioned that there was a female that had blamed Linda for taking the money when she, in fact, is the one that took the money. Whatever happened to her? Was she ever surfaced? And what happened to the guy that Linda lived with?
The woman, she's still out there. She's well aware that we know. She lives within that community. She's part of that community.
Still
That
today.
that tight-lipped community. From my understanding, she got out of drugs. She's cleaned up for herself. So I'll give her props there. You know, she did better for her life, but you're still carrying a demon on your back. The guy that she was staying with, he just kind of vanished. You don't hear anything about him. That's one of the interesting things about that community there is you might hear something about this guy or that guy, this woman, that woman. But I mean, they're not too much of a known figure that you want to keep up with them. So, they might be 3 states away. They might just be next door. So nobody's heard anything about him.
So the female's still there, but the male just kind of
Yeah, he's
disappeared.
Yeah, he's just under the radar. Nobody's heard anything about him.
So my wonder would be is if the lady that's still in that community, does she know where he is? Because I'm guessing they all were in this little circle together. So I'm wondering if she knows where he is. And I'm not expecting you to answer that because I know you can't answer what she knows. But, one would think if you hung out in a circle, you would kind of maybe still keep up with that person. Or maybe if she's clean now, she doesn't want no part of that life anymore. But I agree with you. She still has that demon on her back. And if she did make a wrongful accusation on your mother, for whatever reason she would have made it, I'm just wondering how she herself lives with that today, thinking that maybe that wrongful accusation is why Linda's missing. Maybe it had to do with her making that lie up.
Either way, that's 2 people that know that need to come forward either way. And I agree with you. She's carrying that demon on her back still. She's still carrying that demon on her back. Definitely 2 people that would be
I don't
interesting
know
to
about
talk
you
to.
all, but I often speak for myself on this podcast. My hope to her, whomever she is, I don't want to know her name, don't need to know her name, but she knows her name. And if this podcast reaches her, I guess my question for her would be is how has she lived with this for the past 10 years? Knowing something. If she's clean, that's great. Like you said, props to her. She got herself straightened out. But at least I would hope that she would give you all, her family, Linda's family, some answers. So she can go on with her life and put that behind her, and you all can finally have answers.
Well, they have to think, too, if they're a mother, which she is, what if that was your child?
Right.
Putting yourself in those other shoes is an important part.
So my hope would be to this lady, wherever she is, if the podcast makes its way to her, that she would find it within herself to tell something. We're not saying, and I don't think you all are saying, yes, she made up a lie, but maybe she didn't do something, but my wonder would be, does she know something? Why can't she tell? We spoke on a podcast that we did formerly of kind of a similar situation. David, you can talk about it, how when those people know something, even if they didn't do something, there's still a level of guilt with that if they don't tell, even if it's been years later. So Mary Elizabeth and Chase, you all obviously know who this person is, and we're not asking for her name, but is there something you all would like to say to her in the event this does reach her?
I would just ask the direct question, where can I find what's left of my mother? I have a very sincere feeling that she knows where. I don't want you charged with anything. I don't want you to spend a day in jail. I just want to know where my mother is, and we'll be out of your hair.
Mary Elizabeth?
Yeah, just reach out to us. Let us know where she is so we can bring her home. Because if it was your child, you would want to do it.
And she could do that anonymously?
Yes.
Yes.
Right? As long as it's verifiable, like you keep saying, Chase, what do you got that you could run with, that has legs? That's what you need, is something that's...
And I'm thinking the last time I had talked to Detective Thornberry, he mentioned amnesty. So there you go.
Right, exactly. Yeah, something about that. It depends. They'll, as far as that goes, they'll lean a lot on what you all, the family, think. That's a big wane, especially after 10 years.
Right.
I think that's what he's talking about there, is what your all's end result is too. So, and there's a big difference between somebody leading you to where Linda's remains are and actually being responsible for her death. Those are really kind of 2 separate things. Let me ask you this, as we're kind of rounding around the corner now, and we'll do it one at a time, but what would y'all say to Linda if you could speak to her right now? What would you say to her? Start with you, Mary Elizabeth, if you...
Tell me where you're at so I can come get you.
I can understand that completely. And Chase, what would you say to...
Thank you for giving me the gift of life. Just only wish you could have been here to be a part of seeing how my sister and I have grown up.
The biggest tragedy in something like this is people can change and they can walk away from lifestyles, but if somebody takes that opportunity away from them, that makes it really evil. Is that I've known too many people who have fought really hard, challenging things with substance abuse and turned their lives around. But if somebody robs us of that's the unfair part of this, I think.
Well, thank you all so much for coming and speaking with us. I can't imagine how tough it is to do it. Our hope again is that we get answers for you all, or that somebody will come forward and even, like you said, anonymously tell you all something so that you can at least sleep in peace knowing that you have solved this dreaded 10-year nightmare. So, and to the lady, if you see this, whomever you are, please, if you know something, tell, or if somebody else knows something, just tell. I think that's only fair for you all for what you've gone through for all these years. So thank you so much. Our prayers will be with you that you get some kind of answers. And thank you for taking your time to talk to us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you all. The Murder Police podcast is hosted by Wendy and David Lyons and was created to honor the lives of crime victims, so their names are never forgotten. It is produced, recorded, and edited by David Lyons. The Murder Police podcast can be found on your favorite Apple or Android podcast platform, as well as at murderpolicepodcast.com, where you will find show notes, transcripts, information about our presenters, and a link to the official Murder Police podcast merch store, where you can purchase a huge variety of Murder Police podcast swag. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, which is closed caption for those that are hearing impaired. Just search for the Murder Police podcast and you will find us. If you have enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe for more and give us 5 stars and a written review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you download your podcasts. Make sure you set your play to automatically download new episodes so you get the new ones as soon as they drop. And please tell your friends. Lock it down, Judy.